Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Grow Self Spiritual Fitness Podcast. This is Phil from the future speaking to you, and I gotta say that we have a wonderful conversation ahead for you today. I speak with my friend Bill, and we discuss his life and how things are going, and recognizing the grand arc of how he's able to cope through his life and the meaning that he finds in his spirituality and getting through the adversities that have brought him to where he is today. An interesting case study of how sometimes the things that are causing the most stress are also that which bring us the most joy. So sit back, tune in, and enjoy another episode of the Grow Self Spiritual Fitness Podcast.
The finances, man, is such a big thing. I think about like of the of the three F's in life that can cause the most problems. You've got family, faith, and finances. Those three things can be a lot of sources of problem. But as at the same time, the other side of the coin is that they can also be incredible sources of hope, joy, peace, right? Because when you achieve that level of your faith, your family, or your finances, or all three, then things are going pretty well. What would it look like for you? What's like your goal that you're working towards in order to get to that financial freedom?
I keep looking at jobs, but I'm in such a good job now that I feel bad leaving because I've got a great spot where I'm at and it's pretty secure, but it would have to be some sort of like quantum leap change direction in my life, I think, to land anything better than where I'm at. Where I'd have to like start a side business, and if it grows, then I could maybe go with that. But other than that, I'm pretty much stuck where I'm at. I'm in such a good spot.
Hmm. Yeah, geez, like I feel like that's such a common thing, especially for where we are in life, and even people who are younger than us, younger professionals, which is like looking for a job that you've got the triangle, right? It's either going to pay well enough, it's going to have a good work-life balance, or you're going to enjoy it. You get those three things. You either get pay, life outside of work, or you get to enjoy it. And but you can't have all three, maybe. And
I
these
would
people.
pick pay. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'd pick pay and what was
So if you
you
have a
said
triangle,
pay work
you get
life balance
pay, work-life
and
balance, and like fulfillment.
oh yeah. I'd pick instead of fulfillment, I would say what I could not want to kill myself while doing,
Hmm.
like hate it so much, and pay.
Mm.
Work life balance I could live without, I think.
So you'd be willing to work some like 70-hour job that pays well, so long as you don't want to like blow out your brains after
Yeah,
6 weeks, 6 months,
that would be
6 years.
great.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally do that.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person where I need more on the fulfillment side, and I'm willing to deal with the pay because of where I'm at financially. And then so I'm willing. Yeah, I'm very high on work-life balance. Like my job is 7 to 3, and I love it because I get off at 3 and I'm done at 3 p.m. Uh, but in my field as a chaplain, like we get paid peanuts compared to what someone else would get paid if they had a similar level of education and training. Like I've got my bachelor's, which is 4 years, my master's, which is 3 years, and then a year of clinical training, and then a year of supervised fellowship. So all in total, post undergrad, that's 5 years of work just in order to get into the field where I'm making mid to low five figures. Mid to low six figures. I'm only making 6 figures. My life is so hard. No,
Oh,
mid to upper mid 5 figures. So chaplains can make as low as 35K a year, and they can go up as high as 75K depending on the hospital. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I got to ask if you're having financial problems.
Well, I'm married to someone who also has an income, and so we're able to kind of blend and make it work. That's the thing, we're not just solely dependent on me. But in your case, you're the sole provider. Is that right?
That's right.
So, you're the head of the household and you're doing your thing. How do you manage that stress with finances when you're looking at the books and then the cycle continues? You saved it all and then the next thing pops up and then you drains the bank again and you start back over. Like that one Greek god who pushes up the boulder just to have it fall back down.
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus.
I don't know if he's a
Yeah.
god. Is he?
Greek. No, he was. What was he? He was the guy that was. He was like damned to do it. Like it was his punishment.
That sounds right.
Anywho, how do you cope with it? What gets you through it, man?
Because I have a smooth brain, and the wrinkles make me sad. So smooth brain, happy. Don't think about it. Don't care. Can't do anything about it right now, so not a problem, essentially.
Hmm.
If it became a legitimate problem, well, I'd have to figure out a solution. But right
This
now,
point
I'm
in time,
really
it's not.
okay. I'm okay. It's just frustrating at times having to say no to a bunch of stuff.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Well, that's also because you're a responsible person. It sounds like because the fact that you're willing to say no rather than put yourself into financial straits or debt is really important because there are plenty of people who don't want to live within their means or don't accept the reality of their finances and then choose to live off of credit, and then they fall into that spiral and suffer seriously.
That is a no bueno situation.
It is.
And I have been in that before. I lived at my dad's house for a year with my wife and our baby, and it was terrible. Not terrible. It was great. We were taken care of, but it's so weird just being around your parents in that regard for such a long time. But I was in $10,000 worth of debt. I don't recall, but I paid it all off. Then we moved out, and it was just the best. But I would not. I would have had to probably default on that if I didn't live with my dad and wasn't paying rent.
So because you were
Was paying
in
rent.
you're because you were getting that financial assistance in the form of free rent with family, you're able to dig yourself out of that hole.
Yep.
Yeah, tell me about what drove you through that period, because that's definitely an entire year of adversity. Um, Talk about an entire year of delayed gratification and working day in and day out to achieve something. So what was your process like, man?
Um, I just don't get down that much, but I guess when I do, I just think if I have a thought and it's not helping me, then it's hurting me. So I just stop the train of thought. I'm really good about that.
Mhm.
Like, because when I was a teenager, I used to love sitting in my room, listening to music, pondering the endless, effervescent, you know, iota of anything that could be something, but it's all just a waste of time. If you're not putting it to something, it's just totally self destructive behavior almost. If you're not thinking, if you don't have an intention with it and you're just letting yourself be down or sad for no reason, if you're not saying, like, the situation sucks, but what am I going to do about it? That's productive. But just being upset because you're in a shitty situation, sorry, because you're in a less suboptimal situation,
You could say shitty.
I didn't mean to.
This is an
But,
adult podcast.
you know, just because you're sad doesn't mean you should just wallow in it, because it doesn't help anything. It hurts everybody around you. And then I have the feedback of my partner and my baby. So I can't just be sad because I feel like it. I can for a little bit, but you know, what else am I going to do? It's either that or it's going to get a lot worse if I don't get through it. So just keep going.
There's a lot that I want to unpack here. The first, just like some comments, is that you're describing this like present mindfulness that allows you to really compartmentalize your emotional response versus how that informs your behavior. And that kind of, it sounds like very like stoic, but there's so many different like spiritual elements to that, where based on your values, you're choosing to you're making choices off of them rather than the subjective emotional response in the moment. You've sort of come to this realization that sitting around and perseverating on the mental the jungle that is encased between our ears doesn't actually produce any results. And the only way that change can be done is when it's done in reality and it's done in the here and now. And if the action can't be done, then it's not to be worth to be worrying about until that time comes. And sitting in the mental side of things doesn't change the circumstances. In fact, like you said, it just makes the suffering caused by those circumstances worse. Am I hearing you right?
That sounds apt.
Apt. Is that just like? But you said that there was this change. You said before you get caught in the whirlpool, caught in the tyrant of your mind when you're a teenager, and then fast forward, you have this time where you're able to articulate what you're saying now. What changed and how?
Maybe I should articulate more. I've never been really one to dwell. That's a bold statement to make, but I might be wrong on that. But what I used to like to do as a teenager was think about, I would describe it as like whimsical fancies. I would think about like I would follow every stupid idea all the way till the end of what could possibly be considered logical thought. But now I don't really have time for that. And you realize it might be fun for you. It's not fun for me anymore. I have more fun hanging out with people and getting a good back and forth going rather than just thinking about stuff. But if you're in a situation where you can't afford to hang out with people and all you're left with is your thoughts, I would say try not to do that. Try to make it a habit of hanging out with people, because before I met Jess, I was a single guy doing great, living in an apartment by myself, had bed frame, computer desk, about 400 White Claw cans strewn about tastefully, some Chipotle bowls. And when I met her, I was like, "You can't come over. My apartment's too dirty." And then a weekend, I was like telling myself I was going to clean it up, and I was like, "No, you gotta come pick some of this stuff up because I'm not gonna do it." And she did, and she loved it. And she told her family like, "It's a single guy. It's normal." Even though it's not. But yeah, I'd say for me it was her. She really helped me a lot be a more like stable person. So I've her to thank for that.
Wow. That's beautiful. Like finding that partnership and then getting to a point where you're able to settle down, literally. Yeah. You kind
Yep,
of like
helps to have a shared goal.
you hit the what's it called? There's a good portion of the population out there, young men who probably are currently living in the circumstances that you're describing. Post college or post high school, they have some form of an income that allows them to afford their lifestyle, which is, uh, you know, eat, sleep, game, work. What is it that is so
Yep.
enticing about that? Looking back,
Yeah, there's no risk to it. You can just ride out ride out whatever your dopamine receptors want until you can't anymore. But yeah, if I could have given myself advice, which I didn't really, the only reason I left my little hole was because my WoW guild that I was guild master of broke apart. Well, not broke apart. Everyone just took a big break. We all burnt out, and then I just went out, and then I met somebody like 2 days after. That's when I met them, and then we just never were apart again. So
wow.
yeah, I think it's definitely more important to have good relationships that you're open and honest with, rather than just being alone on the internet with a bunch of people who don't give a heck about you.
Hmm. Hmm.
But easier said than done.
Right.
People on the
Like,
internet can indulge in your degeneracy with you, not shame you for it. Real people are going to call you on your shit because you're affecting their lives.
yeah, keep going with
Maybe,
that.
maybe not. I don't know.
No, I think that you're onto something there. The internet video game lifestyle is safe, and very and hyper affirming, and so there's little to no discomfort so long as you sort of have your you've got your niche, you got your click, and then if you lose it, you just find another click because it's easy to find that online. But then there's no true substance to the relationships. Hmm. Yeah, that goes into the
Really,
spiritual.
hey, I gotta. Well, hmm?
That goes into the spiritual element of like community belonging. That like when it comes to being spiritually fit, one of the key components is having a place where you belong. And a lot of what is being advertised as community belonging is in fact, like you don't get it's more of a facade of the you kind of see this in sort of social progressive movements where like they promise to be affirming and welcoming and loving, but there's no room for forgiveness because if you cause any infraction within the dogma of the social group, then you're a heretic and you're out, and you must you'll be punished until you've served your time. Um, that is not spiritual fitness. Spiritual fitness should be a place where growth can happen and forgiveness exists, and unconditional love can be practiced and experienced and shared.
My response to that is, when I was younger, I would think that it was silly to be that way. But as I've gotten older, I kind of have a different opinion. I'm a lot more empathetic with that way of treating people, because in
What's that?
life, you can make one decision in an instant that will change your life forever and have consequences you could never get out of, almost, I mean, essentially every day. So it makes sense to be so scared of people stepping out of line, because that it could be life or death. We live in such a safe time, and there are so many guardrails up around us to protect us. It doesn't necessarily make sense, like, why are you so afraid? But you know, we we live in a very special, delicately balanced kind of world right now. I mean, if there was an EMP, a solar flare, there'd be no food. It all crumble. It all devolve into degeneracy quick. So I
Hmm.
get it, but
When you say that you get it,
Yeah.
what you're saying is that you see the appeal, you see the reason why there's sort of this stagnation that happens post high school, post college, amongst a sizable population of young men. Is that what you're saying?
That was not what I was saying. I was saying I was empathetic. I was trying to express my understanding of people being too quick to shun away and safeguard themselves apart from away from behavior they didn't deem acceptable.
Hmm.
But I agree with you. There needs to be a forgiveness route through the relationships you have so you can get back in. It's not cool to shut people out who, unless they've mortally wronged you, or
Mm.
beyond whatever you want to call too much. Get those people
Oh,
out.
okay, gotcha. I see what you're saying. You're saying that like the existence of consequences does serve like a good in that it deters like degenerate behavior. It deters antisocial or anti-group behavior. So in the in the marriage, the consequences of infidelity is that you would lose, hypothetically, technically, historically, traditionally, the marriage would be annulled. You'd lose your spouse by cheating, and so then you are motivated by this consequence to not do something like that in order to preserve your union. Which, if there were no consequences, then it wouldn't matter. And but at the same time, when there are no consequences, then sort of nothing matters in a way
And then
because
people do bad stuff for some reason.
and then you have anarchy. Yeah.
I don't know about anarchy, but maybe at the end
Yeah,
of
it
no
goes
consequences.
it
Yeah,
goes
you're
that
right.
way.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you see that a lot. So this is really great. So like spiritual fitness, in the community side of things, like the role of consequences, the role of adversity as a result of making poor choices or as a result of the um, the apathetic aspect of nature in which tragedy strikes indiscriminately, which are two very different things, but can feel like the same thing. So, what are ways in
What was
which
the
you
first
see
thing?
them? The first thing is consequences is because you deserve it,
Oh,
and the second
oh, okay.
is unfair consequences. Hmm. Like
And they're
for
different things.
instance, like you were saying that like when you were living with your dad, you were kind of suffering the consequences of the financial choices that you had made, but you were putting yourself kind of through your time in order to overcome that and then become free, which in a way is like achieving your forgiveness because you became debt free. Um, versus if you were to be, I don't know what another situation is, but let's keep going down this route of like what forgiveness looks like in your life.
Well, it is still my fault. Yeah, definitely my fault. I wouldn't have been in debt if I didn't have a kid. Or yeah. So that's my fault. I'm going to take the blame for that one. But I suppose we worked out of it. I have no idea what forgiveness. I don't think there are some things I can ever be forgiven for. So that's the way it is.
Hmm. There's a category of things that are unforgivable.
Yes, I think there are. Well, it. I don't know if it has to do anything with me, but I think some people in my life have something against me, and I don't know what I did wrong, and I can't ask them about it because when I do, they don't answer me. So some
Hmm.
people are just mad, and I've dealt with it my entire life, and I'm kind of over it. I'm done with feeling bad about it because I have a kid and I love hanging out with her and she's so great. And she says, "Here's your shoes, Dada." And I said, "Thank you so much." And I put them down. And then she brings them back to me and says, "Here's your shoes, Dada." And I say, "Thank you so much." So I have other stuff going on. And, you know, 300 years ago, I would have been dead at my life expectancy, quite possibly. So, I mean, I'm essentially living on borrowed time in some perspectives. So I'm good with, if there's something I can do to make somebody happy because I did something wrong, I'd love to do that. But that doesn't always happen. So I don't think everybody should be, on their knees begging for forgiveness to people who, aren't really treating you fairly.
Well, the definition of forgiveness is something that I think collectively is quite limited from what it like really could mean. Because I think that most people see forgiveness in the way that you do, which is the traditional sense of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the return to normal, the return to a sense of reunification. It's this reunification almost, like that's most often what people say is forgiveness, but it falls short when the other person doesn't desire to reunify, because then it goes into that category. Well, it's impossible to forgive because we cannot be reunited in the way in which we would kind of perceive and hope. However, there's other forms of forgiveness can come in different forms. And Sam, you just described one of them yourself. You said, I have accepted that I will not make them happy, and I've tried my best to do so, but they don't want to talk about it, and so I'm not going to spend any more time trying to please someone who doesn't want to, treat me fairly. And so I'm just going to move on with my life and focus on things that are more important to me. That's forgiveness right there.
Sounds like it. Could be. Probably is. Yeah, I don't have the mind space anymore. I don't have the real estate up in the noggin. I've lost, and I'm spitballing here, I'm guesstimating, a couple dozen IQ from sleep deprivation from having a kid. It's wild. It's wild. She slept through the night for a couple months, like off and on here and there, and she's gone back to waking up in the middle of the night. And this was 2 years in. It's rough. It's rough on your body. Last night, it was so cool. She slept all the way through the night, and we go, oh my God. She slept through the night. That was so, I woke up feeling so refreshed. I got to work early. Never happens. It's just, yeah, it's tough. I don't have time to imagine and daydream about everybody else's nonsense going on, unless they want to make it a point.
You're saying that in the end, your role as father and your experience of being a father really sort of supersedes everything else going on.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's probably not the best case scenario. But I mean, imagine this. We have a park, a little playground right next to our house. And teenage boy walks out. He's around in the street and he starts bouncing a ball. And I think, okay, I'm not going to say exactly what I thought, but I thought I was imagining, defending myself in a self-defense situation. And, it's just weird the things that go through your head when you have a kid. It comes out of nowhere.
Dude, I cannot say that I can't say how much I relate enough with what you're saying. I've got the same thing going on with my daughter, and she's less than a year old, and like I kind of feel like the vigilance in me has popped up where I'm like, who are you? What do you want? Why are you looking at my child? Step away. Like just like funny instincts that just like pops up when I encounter a stranger or I find myself in a strange place, the protective part within me.
Yep. Going
Because
against what I said earlier, I was fuming because he was bouncing the soccer ball in the street. I was pissed.
you were pissed off because he was bouncing a
Like,
soccer ball
can't
in the
you
street?
go a couple houses down? Why do you have to be in my peripheral? You know?
Mm.
He was playing catch with a girl, so it probably wasn't too much of a threat. I cooled down, I simmered down, but then I started thinking about the next thing. I thought, okay,
uh,
what if somebody comes up in a van? If they're going to stab me, I should take it with my left hand intentionally so they don't hit my organs, and then that way I can rip out their jugular. You know, stuff like that. I don't know.
the joys of
I did
fatherhood.
have a Dunkin' Donuts breakfast sandwich, and so that might have had too many preservatives. Maybe that's what was making me mad. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you never know. I want to wrap. I want to bring this back to what you first said because I'm hearing how the same source that started the financial burden and continues the financial burden, which is the main stressor in your life right now, is also an incredible source of love, joy, peace, and purpose in your life too.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Totally. Yeah, it's amazing. Just frustrating at times. But the cool times are awesome.
Mm.
Yesterday, when River was crying and we're like, "You're okay. You're doing great. You're the best. You're the best baby we have. We love you." She wasn't receptive to that. But yeah, the good times are great. Bad times,
Mm.
not so bad. It was bad when we were living at my dad's house. The fights were nuts because we were living in a single bedroom. It was just the environment we were in. It was putting us
Mm-hmm.
under so much stress. But now that we're out and about, walking around, can't find anything better that I would see myself doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see myself being an assistant to the director of the city that I live in. I don't think I have that kind of skill set.
Yeah, what is it that you do?
Right now, I'm in engineering services. So basically, anything that the engineers can't do, or well, they don't have time to do, and they can figure out how to distill down for somebody who's not a licensed engineer to do, that's what I do. So today I was working on making an engineering drawing of a PCB board, uh, a board I have no idea what it does, and I'm given a set of command media, and I had to make notes on this thing about what it does and the proper process for it to be manufactured. So, never done this before. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I just had to ask people questions and then just kind of zone out and type furiously on my keyboard for about 7 hours.
Huh, so it's kind of got this coding component to it, along with some manufacturing as well. Is that right?
Not really coding, but
Input, data entry.
that sounds right.
What do you enjoy most about it, since you say that this is sort of like the best job that's out there for you?
Everything's new. I learn so much every day. Good people,
Hmm.
decent pay,
Mm-hmm.
fun times. Um, yeah, that's a good start. I don't know. There's
Okay.
probably other stuff.
So, I mean, you enjoy the job because like it's satisfying deep down. It kind of like scratches some urge that you have. Uh, but I can see then how there's this dilemma where is that it just doesn't pay enough in order to provide for all the financial responsibilities that you have outside of work, right?
Right.
In other words, if this job paid more to help cover the financial things that you're going through, then there wouldn't be, you would have answered something differently when I asked you, like, what's the hardest thing that you're going through right now?
Then it would be, the perfect job. I'd never have any idea about leaving. Saying hi to the neighbors. They don't like us. They're from California. We're having a good time. We love everybody.
So if you had the opportunity to exchange it, wave the magic wand, do the deal with the devil and say, hey, I've got this opportunity where I can take away your financial stress from you. But it's
First of
cost
all,
me.
I'd never make a deal with the devil. Second of all, no, I wouldn't.
You would. You beat me to it.
No, I could have made that deal a long time ago. Many times. I could do it now if I felt like it, but I would know that in about 5 minutes I'd be 80 years old, and then I'd be paying for it as the gates get shut on me. And I even not even related to that, but it's just like I know it. I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't take throwing them out on the street. I am not a killer like that. I like to think of myself as one, but I'm really not.
Yeah.
Not like that. I like to think I could do it, but no, I definitely could not. And
well, that's good
they're
to
great,
hear.
and I love them, and I don't want to do any of that, but I could.
Right. You
But don't
recognize
test
your
me.
capacity.
So behave, please.
It's the story of everyone likes to see themselves as the superhero in the movie, but the reality is that just about all of us are the bystanders standing there watching.
I mean, how could you throw that outside? You hear her?
Yeah, I can hear that. It's great. This river that we hear, she's participating. It sounds like she's having living her best life.
She is.
Yeah. I think that this is beautiful, Sam. Like hearing how what causes stress is actually what brings the most joy, and that it's actually a stress that's a very honorable stress. It's the stress of being a reliable, present father, which as a new dad myself, I can say is I will say that in my opinion, if you're able to become a father, I recommend doing it because there is nothing that matches the sense of duty and responsibility that comes with parenthood. And as a result of it, produces and it unlocks so much growth internally that really contributes to your spiritual fitness.
But have you tried being a guild master? It's not easy. Sometimes you gotta squeeze. But you get something out of it in the end. That did burn me out. It's a lot easier to be a parent than a guild master. I gotta say. All the skills I have, that one was tough. Well, I mean, next thing I know, River's gonna take off in the truck at 3 years old, not know how to drive, but it's okay for now. We're doing good.
I guess you better start teaching her.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, that way when I drink, she can drive.
Well, Bill, thanks so much for your time. It's good chatting with you. And do you have any kind of last words that you'd like to offer to the listeners?
Believe in yourself, follow your dreams.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Grow Self Spiritual Fitness podcast. And I hope that you are able to get spiritually jacked this week and you pursue all the things that bring you life, meaning, and purpose and community. So long.